As we reach the final phase of our framework, what does integrate actually mean? Here, we assume that the majority of our teams have adopted the policies, procedures, systems, and new culture. You'll notice I said majority, because we know that total integration takes time. But once we have the majority, we can then slowly work towards that final overall integration.
Why is the integrate phase so important? We're trying to get back to being a high-performance team. That's the ultimate end goal of this. This is where people feel comfortable to take risk again, and with risk becomes innovation. In the investigate phase, we introduced the quad model. This is a phase where we want most of our people to be in that I belong category. In this phase, most people are there. We want to draw in the rest of the team and bring them up into that category. The end result is a high-performing team.
So how are we going to lead our teams through this final phase to complete integration? Well, firstly, this is a dynamic framework. So you will have, during this process, sometimes gone back to previous phases and adjusted your approach. That would be quite typical. But what we want to do here is, number one, review where we are. What is the level of integration? Learn. So learn from what you've previously done, but also learn where your team are now and where the gaps are. Adapt your strategy accordingly, and then put the new plan in place. This is a continual process of review, learn, adapt, proceed. And in doing that, we will slowly win hearts and minds. What you will find at this phase is that there may be new change that starts to be introduced. And so there may be a period where you will have to manage two elements of change at different phases. What I would say is, don't assume that this is final. Don't assume that you have now integrated everybody. Keep going back and checking in. Review, learn, adapt, proceed, and just keep doing it. Good luck.
So let's talk about the integration phase. And it's interesting, I've got a question that I'm going to start off with, which kind of seems to go against the integration phase. But what do we do when more change happens? So in the integration phase, we're talking a lot about normalizing a team and surviving the end of this change. But we see a lot, particularly with merger, acquisition, and divestiture projects, a company that does one does another one shortly after. What do you do while you're still trying to normalize from that change and something else pops up?
We often see this partly because people think at the integration stage that it's now, you're right, normalized, everybody's adopted it. But in fact, they haven't, particularly our political adopters and our reluctant adopters. However, our stakeholders and the business will want to continue to make organisational changes and procedures and policies. Actually, this framework, our iChange framework, enables you to go back to the phases and look at what's going to be the impact of the new change. What is going to be the information? How do we inform them? What's the influence? How can we use our influencers? And actually, it's your influencers that you will use on the next change. So you could have a small working party working on the next change whilst your team are involved in the existing change. But what I would say is, because it's such a dynamic model, what you do is you work through it. It might be fast. It all depends on the change. The great thing about this framework is you can just keep going back into it and keep using it.
Great. We hope you enjoyed our series on mergers, acquisitions, and divestitures, Method in the Madness. Both working on both the technical pieces and the people pieces, sometimes often overlooked. If you need some help more on the technical side, feel free to reach out to us. Quadratech has a lot of experience in the merger, acquisition, and divestiture space, whether it's a tenant-to-tenant migration, PST migration, archive migration, or help in Office 365 management. Feel free to get in touch with us at quadratech-it.com.
And if you want help with the human factor of all of these elements, leadership development, business coaching, consultancy, you just got a question for us, contact us on hello@mjinspire.com.